Hello, this is Andrea from Our Daydream back again for another awesome show. This week we have Brian Moritz. He is the co-founder of Inspiring How You See That, which can be found on most platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We speak a lot about leading a purposeful life. So without further ado and great pleasure, here is Brian. Well, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Good to finally meet you.
Yeah, awesome. I always like to start out with like, what's your testimony? And we will talk about inspiring how you see that, but what's your testimony?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, mine's and probably not as exciting as a lot of people. I mean, when I was about 13 years old, my dad came home and some guys from work had told him about Christ and he accepted Christ. And we grew up kind of like nominal Catholic, believed that God existed, but didn't really know anything about him, and didn't really care. But it was interesting. So I don't know if it was perfect timing for me, but it just made sense. And I accepted him like that, like it was nothing. And so I'm blessed in that way that for whatever reason or way that the Holy Spirit presented it, it just completely made sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but like anybody, I mean, I of course backslid and, I've done things and said things that are certainly sinful and I shouldn't do. And, nowhere near perfect, but every day it's like, I wake up and I'm like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to try to love him more and try to serve him more.
Even that, it's like trying to learn your identity in him even more. Yeah,
exactly. And I think even in the weaknesses, even in things, not necessarily sin, but I mean, maybe a weakness that I'm susceptible to certain kind of sins. That's something that I can see growth that he's achieving. And so, that brings him glory, which is awesome.
Yeah. I love how you said that, it's our weaknesses that we can see like how much we're actually growing.
Yeah.
I think about that so much is like, what if we were perfect? How boring would that be?
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like, when people always talk about like free will and they're like, well, why, if God's so loving, why did he even give us an opportunity to sin? And, I have struggled with that. And I think the Holy Spirit just kind of let me know one day, it's like, hey, if you had no other option but to love me, then that's not really love. But if I give you the option to hate me and you choose to love me, even in your own flawed way, that's real. That's legitimate. And so even though he's God and he's not limited to our emotions, he still wants to be loved and desired just like we do.
Yeah. And like the Spirit has definitely, I feel like, been on this topic this week through my words. And then, then I see ministries where other people are speaking about too, is like this utter desperation for God, because I mean, you can really see a difference between somebody that is desperate for God, like desperately wanting to connect with God, and somebody that doesn't even know what that connection looks like, but wants it, and it's like, I feel like that desperation is what, brings us joy. I don't know. It's so odd how it works out like that. It's like,
I agree with you. And it makes sense. And I think that's why, again, when people are like, why does God let good things happen to bad people? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, we're in a fallen world. So it's not necessarily God's like, oh, I'm going to do this to you. It's the result of our sin and us individually and us as humanity. But, like you said, I mean, and the word says all good things work for those who work for the good for those who love the Lord. And that's even things that seem bad. And I think because, in my own ego, I have to remind myself, I'm not the lead character. Even in my story, it's not my story, it's his. And so I have no idea what he's doing for someone else through some temporary suffering I might be going through.
Right.
And it's not my place to say that's not fair. Because the reality is, if he gave us fairness, we'd all be screwed. Fairness really doesn't have a play in it, and thank God it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's
true.
grace.
And yeah, I had a couple of clients one time at a job that I worked at, and the one client kind of like wrongfully attacked the other client. And so I was trying to talk to the client that was wrongfully attacked. And I said, I don't know. I said, I feel like there's just something happening here where that actually saved his life. You know, like maybe he wrongfully attacked you and it hurts you right now. But what if it might have been that process where you changed the rest of his life by taking that hit, you know,
Right.
of his aggression? And sure enough, it was, you know, pretty much like the next day, this man was full of joy when previously, you know, he was miserable, this guy that wrongfully attacked this kid.
No
And he
kidding.
was just full of this new joy whenever he was there for a couple weeks and was just miserable and just trying to start fights with people. It
Yeah.
was like he was happy. So it's like, I don't know. Sometimes, you know, we got to see that there's something bigger really happening in all of this for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, I understand sometimes that's easier to understand and accept than it is other times. I get that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're human beings.
Right.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Christ coming to earth is that, yes, I mean, he's never been fully human. He's always been fully human and fully God. So I mean, he kind of has an advantage there. But by coming here and dwelling among us, he now can legitimately say, I understand what you feel.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously God always had that understanding, but now he can say, I've been where you are.
I love
And
that.
I'm still where you are, right there beside you.
Right.
And so even in our sin, when it's like, I mean, I know myself, there are times I beat myself up because I'm like, I should know better. You know, I'm saved. I should know. And I'm the worst kind of sinner because I throw it back in his face. And it's almost like there's so many times where it's like, Brian, I've already forgiven you. You need to let that go.
Right.
And it's myself listening to the lies of Satan. I'll
Yeah.
never be good enough. And the truth is, no, I'll never be good enough. I don't have to.
Right.
He's done it. He's good enough.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good. I think about Peter oftentimes with that is like he didn't want to betray Christ. Like he
Yep.
didn't.
Yeah,
He's like,
exactly.
yeah. Can you imagine? It's like you actually, Jesus comes to you and says, you're going to do this thing that you don't want to do. And you're like, no, I'm not. And, you know, and then you go and do it anyway, like, what? And
Yep.
then, you know, and you would feel like that's like the ultimate sin. And,
Yep.
you know, but it was prophecy. If Peter hadn't done that, we wouldn't be born again today.
Exactly. And you know, when it says that Peter went outside and he wept bitterly, I know what that feels like.
You're right.
And it's a shame. It's not, you can't blame Satan. You can't, it's like, I did that.
Right.
I'm the one that chose to do that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but he still loves me, even though I did that. That's the part that I can't fully comprehend in my feeble human brain, but it's like, it's the most beautiful thing ever.
Right. I had clients one time, they're like, what is God? I'm like, God is somebody that's never going to go away. So you might as well just receive him.
Like, exactly. Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, you know, it's people,
you might
it's
as well
like,
just give up the fight.
exactly. It's like, look, at some point, your knee will bow, your tongue will confess that Christ is Lord. It's better to do it willingly. Trust me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just grab it. Stop running from it, because that's so difficult when you're trying to run from something that's going to give you goodness. Like that's such a hard walk. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love, and, you know, especially, you know, as a new Christian, and obviously you focus on the love of God and then, you know, how you're saved. Absolutely. That's the great news for everyone. But it's amazing as you continue to mature in your faith, you actually start to see the holiness of God. And it's like, okay, he's not my best friend in the sky. He's not, and what I mean by that, he's not the teddy bear he's God. Right. You know, he's God Almighty. And that's where you understand the fear of the Lord. It's like, I don't fear him because I think he's going to hurt me. I fear what I would be without his grace.
Yeah. What would you do?
Yeah.
Absolute. What would you do if you didn't even have God there with you? Like, what? I am an enemy to myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thought of being an enemy of God is absolutely terrifying. Yeah. Once you understand, or you have a concept of who he is and what his power is, that's terrifying.
Right. Yeah. I was just praying that prayer this morning, was like, God, like, I'm sorry, or I thank you for never leaving me. And I'm sorry that, that I get angry with you. And I'm grateful that no matter how mad I get at you, you're still there. You still don't go nowhere. You're still
Yep.
here. Because there's been times where I'm just like, seriously, God, like,
Kind of like Job.
I do. I get really mad sometimes, and like I don't even want to look at him for a minute, but he shows his head whether I want it or not.
Just like a good father, he's like, all right, go cry, and then come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Praise God.
Yeah.
So what was happening the moment that you decided to do Inspiring? How you see that? Because I know whenever I started Our Daydream, it was definitely a definitive moment in my life that really sticks out. So
Sure. It's kind of interesting. So, my buddy Kevin and I, we're the ones that started it and run it. He lives in Columbus, Ohio. And we've been best friends for about 20 years. And we'd go to a lot of concerts together. Sometimes his wife would be with us. And it was funny. A lot of times I'd go up after the show and I'd just start talking to the artist. And they're like, hey, do you want to hang out? I'm like, okay. And he's like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. You just go up and talk to him. I just say hi. Do you have? And he said, hey, we should start a YouTube channel where you interview artists. I'm like, okay. I had no clue what that meant. I've never done a YouTube. I've never interviewed anybody. I've never taken any kind of like journalism courses. So I thought, all right, that sounds cool. Now what do I do? So there's a band here in Erie called First to 11, and they're pretty big. They've got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and they're friends of mine. And so I went and I was like, hey, can I interview you guys? And I'm like, yeah. And I remember the very first interview, I'm sweating bullets. I've never been on camera, and I'm like, what am I doing? And it's, I'm sitting there and it was them on the couch and me, and I'm looking at this camera, and for a second, I had no clue what to say. And I'm like, I feel like the biggest idiot in the world right now. And so I just kind of took a deep breath and said a quick prayer. And then it just was, all right, they're my friends. Let's have a conversation and just forget that the camera's there. And so that's what I did. And, 5 minutes into the interview, I was perfectly fine. I was calm. And so that's how I approach it, is I just want to have a conversation. Beforehand, I do my research. I try to find out some info about them, their music, and I write notes, but I don't use the notes. I don't take them with me to an interview because I found that it distracts me. For some people, it works great. And so it's not like my way is the only way. It's just what works for me. I just get into a conversation, and it's like a couple of things that are important is one, and I have to constantly remind myself, it's not about me, it's about the artist. And so people aren't watching to hear what I have to say. They're watching to hear what they have to say. And then along with that is making sure that I listen to them. Because if you truly listen and take in what they're saying, they'll kind of give you hints of what to ask. And you could say, hey, you mentioned this. Can you elaborate on that? And it really just becomes a conversation. And I love that because then they open up and it's like, this is great. Yeah. And so it just kind of happened. And, it's amazing. Like I said, I wake up every day and I thank God. I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this. And it's not my job. It's just a passion. But I've made friendships with some of my favorite artists from around the world. And I'm like, I'm just some dude in Erie, Pennsylvania. Like, why do I get it's like, this is cool. How did this happen? Mm-hmm. But it's a blessing for sure.
Do you still feel that?
I do.
That nervousness. How many have you done so far?
Oh, we've done over 100 interviews total.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because we started like right before COVID hit. And so we've still been able to do all those interviews, and God has made that, be a possibility. And actually, they've all been in person right up till recently. I finally got set up so that I could do like this and do interviews over Skype, and which has been cool because that's opened up bands, in Europe or in California, which has been awesome. I still obviously prefer in person, but hey, this is still cool. So
absolutely.
But I absolutely still get nervous before every single one. And I think, what if I look like an idiot or say something dumb? But it's just a matter of trusting the Lord and just trusting that you put in the work leading up to it and just relaxing and having fun.
Right. I have to do that before every podcast because I feel nervous every time. I think I'm on like 48 or something like that.
Yep.
Interviews, and I feel the tension in my shoulders, and and as soon as I pray, then like the tension lifts and then I'm okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's probably good that we still feel that way even after doing 40 or 100, because you never want to get to where it doesn't excite you or doesn't feel like a little bit nervous, because then you're still kind of on your game, And I mean, there are times where I don't really get starstruck easily. I get excited, but I'm never really intimidated by people. But my favorite band is The Warning, and I got to interview them up in Canada. And I'll never forget, I walked in the room and I saw DANY and Powell. They were both sitting on the couch, and I'm like, I kind of went blank for a second. I thought, oh man, I'm going to talk to DANY and Powell. I mean, these girls are incredible. And then I sat down, and again, it just kind of relaxed. But I hope I never lose that excitement and sense of amazement.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Who's your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I literally have dozens of bands that I love. I would say The Warning is probably, gun to my head, probably my favorite. But then there's a band from Sweden called Smash Into Pieces that I absolutely love too. And I'm going to see them in April up in Toronto, so I'm pumped.
That's super awesome. Well, you do these live shows, and when you do that, is there sometimes where you're like thrown off guard, like did that really just happen?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, plenty of times, both good and bad. I mean, there's times where you're like, I can't believe I'm I'll walk away from an interview, I'm like, I just talked to that person, like how did that just happen? Like you said, it was all a blur. It came out well, but it was just like, I can't believe that just happened. And then there are times you're doing an interview and somebody just like walks right in front and you're like, okay, whatever.
or stands beside you and starts having a full-on conversation like you're not doing anything.
Yeah. Or you're doing an interview and you're in the green room, and then all of a sudden the other band starts practicing and you can't really hear it. You're like, just make the best of it,
Yeah. What is the purpose behind Inspiring How You See? Like, because I know your faith and stuff like that, but as far as providing for the people.
Sure. So it's actually, there's a couple of points that both Kevin and I really, in our hearts, what we wanted to do with this channel and what we were striving to do. One, we both just absolutely love music, and it's all kinds. I love everything from country to metal, and there's a lot of bands that maybe aren't very big, or they're in Europe, so they're not known here. And I just want to bring that joy that I have to other people. It's like, hey, check this out. I think you're going to like this. On the other thing is, there's so much like just bad in the world and things to bring you down. And I mean, anytime you turn on the news, it's like, really, somebody else is fighting, or there's another natural, and it's so depressing. And so we wanted to have something to give people that's positive, and so we've even done some salute to service interviews where we talk to veterans, or, hey, we find a cool place, hey, here's a really cool covered bridge. Let's do a video and share it, because we thought it was awesome. And so we made it a point that we never want to go negative on our channel. So you'll never see us do a video like, here's bands that we think are horrible. Because we don't see the purpose in that. I mean, if other people want to do that, that's perfectly fine. We want to be positive. And so that's our goals, is to share our love of music and artists, and, in our little way, get some exposure to some of these people and just have some joy for people.
Yeah. Did you see that, like on a deeper level during COVID? Like, wow, God's really using this for like a big thing, because there was so much negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only what we could share with people, like, hey, here's something to get your mind off of it, But
Yeah.
for me personally, it was like being able to, talk to people, do interviews, and simply just making videos like artist spotlights like we do took my mind off of the boredom of I can't go anywhere and do anything.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person, for good, bad, or indifferent, I'm kind of naturally, I rebel against certain things. So it's like when, the government tried telling me I can't go somewhere, I'm like, watch me. That's just me.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that allowed me to kind of take that energy and focus us on something. And hopefully we were able to provide a little bit that for other people as well.
Yeah. I know whenever COVID happened, I prayed. I went down to the water and I prayed. I said, God, what do you want me to do for the people and all this? Like,
Yeah.
because I have a ministry and stuff, and I really want, to help in any way that I can right now, because I've seen so much negativity even amongst the Christians. And
Yeah.
I was like, God, what do you want me to do in all this? And he's like, everything is as it's supposed to be. Keep doing as you're doing. So it's like that positivity is like, I'm not wavering with, the COVID or the circumstances of the world. I'm going to keep focused on like God, and this is, what I'm doing for God. And same with you. It's like I'm doing this kingdom work, and it's
Yep.
keeping people's minds focused towards God instead of all the chaos.
Yeah. And I love what you're doing. What got you into doing this with the podcasting?
I actually was doing like Facebook Live ministries.
Okay.
And so, I was talking to Matt Sassano. I was like, what should I do with, like I have no direction. I'm just doing the next thing that God tells me to do. And so he was throwing out, all these ideas, and because I do go to a lot of concerts and stuff. And so, but it was like God also brought all these music artists to my Facebook, and I really wasn't sure why. Years ago, I was just like, why are all these people coming to me? Because I really love music. I really do, all different genres, and I've always been like that. And so I guess it was kind of like when Matt said about, interviewing artists and stuff like that. It was something kind of clicked in me. And then I had Jordan St. Cyr accept a friend request. And I'm like, whoa, okay, God.
It's a cool feeling, isn't it? When you're like, whoa, that person knows who I am? Like, this is cool.
He accepted my friend request? Like, so I'm like, all right, God, I'll do this podcast. I haven't gotten him on yet, but I haven't reached out to I've been pretty busy with it. Like God just kind of, and I don't know, I assume that it's that way for you. It's like, yeah, God keeps presenting these people. I don't even really have to put much work or effort into it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the more that you do, the more that comes back, and it's, yeah. It really is a direct reflection of the parable of the talents, literal talents. And it's to where, you've got the ability to talk to people similar like I do. And I've always told people, I said, I truly believe that every single person has at least one gift from God that they're incredible at. And some have more than one. And I think part of the joy of life and part of our mission while we're here on earth is to figure out what that is and use that to serve him. Because there's a reason he gave us that gift.
It's true. Don't bury your talent.
Exactly. And it's just like the parable where it's like, hey, go use it and bring it back tenfold. Get other people involved, get other people excited. And I think I thank God that I found what it was. And it's interesting because I never considered myself like a creative person. All through high school, I would see like the artsy kids, and I'm like, they're kind of weird,
Yeah.
But I wasn't mean. I got along with, but I was like, until I started hanging out with artists, and then I was like, maybe I kind of have a little bit of the weird side, and I didn't know it, and that helped unlock that in me, and I think that was like, wow, thank you, God, you put some of this in me that I didn't even know was there.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's like at first I didn't honestly really want to do it because like you said, you were sweating and it's like jumping out into this uncomfortable territory that you know, you didn't really feel like you were made to, like, designed to do.
Yep.
And it's like stepping out into that. I don't know. I think it's I think God really wants to make us uncomfortable in order to bring forth those talents, for sure.
I agree. And you know, it is scary. I mean, there are times that, like, just like you said, I'm like, why do I get to do this? Like, there's people so much better. And I look and I see someone like, well, he's much better at, or she's much better at interviewing than I am. And it's like, God's like, that's irrelevant. I want you to do what I'm telling you to do.
Right.
And I don't mean it to be mean, but I've seen some people where you see them do an interview and I'm like, okay, I can't be that bad. So,
Right.
So that kind of like, all right, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for those reminders.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome to have like one talent though, because I'm like an artist. People tell me I'm good at writing, and
Nice.
then you know, I'm doing so it's like, Andrea, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
like,
have no
whatever
idea.
comes up.
I'm winging it. It's like,
Yeah.
1 minute I'm doing this, next minute I'm doing that.
Yep. Yeah, and mine, I learned, was just kind of broad, like communication. You know, I can talk to people, I can write, I can, and there's a reason he gave that ability to me. So it's like, and it's certainly not for me to hold it over people and be like, look how great I am. That is
Right.
not at all. It's to be like, hey, look how great God is. Look at what he
Amen.
did to me. Look what he did in you and you. And it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I really do feel like, I know, because I always bring this up in the podcast, but I was an atheist for 17 years. And it's like,
Oh,
you get
wow.
put on, you get put on this conveyor belt. It's like you're just doing a repetition of things, trying to find joy in it, you know. And it's like, I didn't really know who I was until God showed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whenever I was walking on my own, like, I had no idea who Andrea was. I was just like doing the next thing that I needed to do. And most oftentimes I was in, you know, like survival mode, trying to get it all done that day. And but you know, it's that receiving, I think, of God that really like shows you who you are and those talents that you contain. And definitely, you know, the ingredient of getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a good point. I mean, you know, and you go back to when he talks about he's the potter, we're the clay. And it's like, in order to make us strong and to make us what we're meant to be, we've got to go through the fire.
Yeah.
We got to be put in the
that.
oven, and that hurts. And but it makes us strong, and it makes us who we are. He wants us to be. And that's incredible that he reached you, and that's beautiful. I love hearing people's stories of how they came to know him, because, you know, it's, to me, I always say there's only one way to the Father, and that's through Christ, but there's a billion ways to Christ. You know, as long as he is the destination, he'll provide a way. And it's so cool to see how he does that in people. And, you know, it's like, you don't see it at the time, but later on you can see the pieces that he put in place. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. And I don't deny for one moment that my atheism was for a reason. It was to hopefully bring unbelievers back to God.
Yeah.
You know, to see. But then too, it was like, as soon as I became a believer, one of my kids became an atheist. I'm like, how can you do that? Whenever you see me go from atheist to believer, like, how does that even how does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was there, I came back. So like, why are you going there? Like, you're just going to come back eventually, you know, but it hurts to get there. Like you said,
oh yeah,
you got to go through that fire. But I know for a long time after I was prayed over and felt the strength of God, I was kind of offended by Christ, honestly. I was like, why is he getting all this glory whenever it's God doing everything? I was like, who does he think he is? And so, you know, of course, God takes you on this process to start teaching you and showing you like who Christ is. And all that. And so definitely it was me relinquishing, myself over to Christ. That was the transitional point. But
but I mean, the great thing is he is okay with those questions. He's okay with us. He wants us to be honest. He wants us to kind of be like, this doesn't make sense. Who do you think you are? He's like, oh, now that you asked, let me tell you, it's like, oh, but it's the funniest thing, because, it's the Holy Spirit has this amazing ability to, when you're sinning, to make you feel about this big, but then instantly make you feel like you're the most precious thing in the world.
Right.
And I don't know how he does it, but it's like, and I don't think it's necessarily him making me feel this big, but he allows me to, like, hey, what are you doing? You know better. And then it's like, then I beat myself, but instantly wraps his arms around. It's like, you're my son. I'm not doing this to you because I want to hurt you. I'm doing this to you because you're better than that.
Right.
And I have some amazing things for it. It's like, it's so beautiful how he does it. And it's, I was thinking as you're talking, the world has this twisted view of our own self-worth and self-value. They're always, hey, you should love yourself, but it's a false love. It's a prideful love that leaves you empty. And it's funny, it's almost like you need to be broken first, and you need to understand just the level of all my own depravity and how far I am from God to understand how much I need him. Then once I realize that, it's like, then I realize my true value, which is much beyond than I ever could have thought. Because I'm like, wait a minute, the king came down and died for me.
Right.
He values me that much. And it's the arrogance goes, but the true value comes in.
Right. And I can tell you that I didn't really know love before I found God. I really didn't. And even with my kids, I could say that was, that wasn't really love the way that I love them now. It was a different kind of love. And it was like, love was superficial. It was momentary. It was, as long as
it was selfish.
As long as you please me, like, I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna be mad at you whenever you're not, but I'm still gonna love you, like God, like he doesn't leave you. But at the same time, like, it was a different type of feeling. And so the moments were so dark because I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love anything else. And it was just, walking in this clouded darkness. And I'll sometimes be, blessed enough to talk to Satanists even, and they're like, I don't have a soul. And I'm like, yes, you do. Like, you're feeling everything. Like, don't tell me. I was an atheist. I know what you're feeling right now. And you don't have to feel that way, and it's cool that I get to have those conversations and be like, no, as a believer, I can be like, no, I was there. You're not going to pull that on me.
And that's the beautiful thing of why he let you go through that period of your life. Because now, I can't relate to an atheist. You can. So you can be Christ for them, because you can say, look, I understand where you're coming from. And that's beautiful with Satanists, because you think, some of them have probably literally sold their soul to Satan. And it's like, look, as long as you still have breath, there is hope. That contract can be torn up, by the one who created you. There's hope. And I've heard amazing stories of Satanists that have come to Christ. And it's like, that's beautiful. I mean, it's, and it goes back to, I think of, well, I mean, it was all over, but like Jeffrey Dahmer, that whole thing, and how what he did was beyond evil. But I remember seeing him when he was in prison. I think he's telling the truth when he talked about coming to Christ. He had nothing to gain, and I could see it in him. And then when he died, and people were like, well, he's in hell, almost like a celebratory. I'm like, first of all, you don't know that.
Right.
And,
no.
Even what Jeffrey Dahmer did is not beyond the grace of Christ. And I literally had somebody say, well, if somebody's like Jeffrey Dahmer's in heaven, I don't want to be there. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, if somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer is in heaven, that means anybody can. And that is a wonderful thing.
Right.
I hope and I think he probably is there. And what a great testimony that is to the love and power of Christ.
Look at Apostle Paul.
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
he literally was there and sanctioned the killing of Christians.
Yeah. 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 Because I've had, you know, unbelievers come to me and say about the Bible, just like being there to dictate all these rules and regulations. You know, a lot of them claim they are recovering from Catholicism. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not really, you know, because God forgave Apostle Paul, so surely he'd forgive me for my sins, you know, and you for yours.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a great point, because the world sees that as God being mean and dictating, you know, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. The reality is God is pointing out the things that are holding you in bondage.
Yeah.
God is saying, these are the things that are making you a slave. Like what? I'm giving you freedom away from these things that hold you down. But it's the way that Satan twists good things and perverts it into something unholy, and then the world believes it. Right.
Absolutely. So how's it feel to be interviewed rather than interviewing?
I like it. It's cool. It's cool to be on this side of it. You know, it's but again, it goes back to the conversation, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. It's, you know, especially when we're talking about Christ and the amazing thing that he does, I get excited.
Right. Yeah, I could Bible talk all day.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to be a pastor, though. That's a heck of a sword to pick up. But...
You know, I've thought about that, and I was like, I don't want to deal with a lot of like administrative stuff that they have to, and I'm like, no, I'm good.
Well, not only that, it's like every time I do a ministry, I get tested on it and fail like the following week. So, I'm like, I thought I just learned this. That's why I'm doing this ministry right now. But no, actually, it was preparing me for the failure that I'm going to have the following week. You know, exactly. where I'm going to learn the lesson. So it's like, you know, you got to push your ego to the side to keep doing that, because you really do get ruffled around a little bit with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And there are times, you know, like you said, there are times I wanted to be pastor. I wish I could do what that guy does. Yeah. And that's where God reminds me, like, that's not what I called you to be. Right. You know, I called you to do exactly what you're doing, you know, and just like he talks about the parts of the body, you know, the foot isn't to say, I wish I were the eye. No, do your job as the foot. Right. And then the body works well.
I love that. I love that. Just be obedient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can get, you know, very impatient and arrogant at times. And I need him to kind of be like, knock it off.
Right. Yeah. And that usually includes something getting swept away.
Yep, exactly. Something that hurt, but then later you realize I didn't need that, so thanks.
Yeah, that's like the worst lesson to learn, but it's one that feels like it never goes away.
Yep.
Dang tree.
Exactly. Exactly.
So where can we find you?
So, I mean, all around, it's always inspiring how you see that, and that's with the letters you see. So the biggest things, obviously, our YouTube channel. Instagram is huge. That's been massive for us. We have Facebook, and then we have like Twitter and TikTok, but we don't really use it. TikTok I use to find like really cute videos that I share. That's about it. But really, you know, and we have an email, inspiring how you see that at gmail.com. So, I mean, we always love hearing from everybody.
Do you take donations as well?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't yet, but it's something that if somebody feels led to, we would certainly appreciate it. Yeah, we would absolutely tithe it, and we would absolutely use it to, you know, to the best of our ability to serve the kingdom. Yeah, we would, because a lot of times, so like, for example, we talked about before we came on here a couple days ago, the Kingdom Come Festival. And so, and I don't say this to be like, oh, look at the amazing things we've done, but we've donated to them because of what God has opened up for us. Right. And it's like, this is something that's doing an amazing job bringing people to Christ, much more than we can. So it's like the gifts that he's given us, we can take a little bit of that and give it to that. And that's what, it's all his. So it's like, if he says, hey, give that to there, it's his money. It's
Right.
I'm just a steward at that point.
Right. And I feel like we should be tithing into, the incredible work that's being done in the kingdom.
Absolutely. I mean, for one, it's a command, so we should do it.
Yeah.
And two, it's kind of the one thing in the Bible where God is like, go ahead and test me on this. If you tithe and you trust me, he never says I'll make you rich, but he promises, you'll be fine. Just trust me in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's coming up next? Do you have any interviews coming up?
I do, actually. So I've got one tomorrow over Skype. And then, like I said, I've got a couple more and then some in person. So like Smashing to Pieces, I'll be going to. Looking forward to Kingdom Come coming up in, was that June?
Yeah.
June. And that's always a blast. It's always, you make friends there, talk to people, do interviews. And absolutely. It really is something that when I'm not working my normal job, I'm probably doing something with the channel.
Right. How many do you usually do at Kingdom Come Fest interviews?
So we've gone the last 2 years, and I would say we've probably done like 14 or 15 each year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And a couple of them have been repeats, and it's just been amazing to catch up with friends. And, for example, so 2 years ago, the first time we went was the first time I met GFM, and those girls are amazing. Just an incredible family, the English family. Well, then we became friends. I've seen them a few times. Last year, I interviewed Maggie in GFM, but as the character Derek, which she does. They have a song called Susan where she plays like this guy named Derek. It's a weird thing, but I interviewed her in character, and it was a blast.
She's so cute.
They're the sweetest girls. They're and their mom and dad are just the nicest people you could meet.
Yeah. I watch her a lot on Instagram. Yep. Maggie. She's cute. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And prayers for your mission, and, that you continue to, open people's eyes, really, because, I mean, for me, I went to church whenever I was younger by myself, but I really wasn't like taught that in my home. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I started going back to church, after I accepted Christ back in 2019, I started going back to church. Like, I had no idea that there was Christian rock music, So thank God for people like you that are enlightening us and showing us like there's awesome music in the Christian world. It's not,
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. For any genre that you're interested in, you can worship with that. So yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. And likewise, I mean, what you're doing is incredible. Talking to people, getting the word out for Christ and what he's doing. That's you're going to hear, well done, good, faithful servant. That's the goal that we all have, Amen. Which is amazing. And thank you again for having us. And, likewise, if there's any way that we can help, your mission, what you're doing with Christ, let us know. We'll be more than happy.
All righty. Well, blessings. I'll be reaching out to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe because we have an awesome guest coming up every week and I don't want you to miss out. Don't forget, Our Daydream now has merch. If you want to check that out in the description. God bless. Have an awesome week. See you next time. Bye.